Good evening and welcome back to episode 11 of the Hooked on NRL SuperCoach podcast. I'm your host Xavier and I'm joined by my co-host Fish. How are we, Fish?
Good, mate. Good weekend. Good win from the Tigs. We were repping the jersey as per. Yeah, no, it was a good weekend of footy. A lot of close games. A lot of talking points though coming out of it, which I'm sure we'll get stuck into later on in the epi. But yeah, been a good week. How about you?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, it was good win for the Tigers, and unfortunately, I can't say the same with my Warriors. We got absolutely slaughtered. But on the SuperCoach and tipping front, pretty happy with how I went. So I'm keen to get stuck in with you, mate, and go through another week of SuperCoach trades, skippers, plans, all the news. Seems to all be happening in the NRL at the moment. So yeah, keen to rip in.
That's it, mate. Plenty going off. So to kick us off for this episode, episode 11, as per usual, we'll go through the comments of last week's episode. Last week's episode did really well. We're up to 87 subscribers now. We got 21 likes and we got a bunch of comments. So we really appreciate that. Cheers, guys, for that. Cheers, guys. Cheers for that. We love the support. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, really boost the engagement. We're closing in on the big 100 subscribers soon, so that'll be good. Kicking us off for the comments. We got the first comment. We've just got some really good positive feedback again, Zave. We've got
Yeah,
keep up the
love to
great
see
work,
it.
guys. Great show, boys. Liking the style and content. Cheers, guys. Keep it up. Listen to these guys, the top of their class. Love the potty this year. My lad's my favorite. Shout
Oh,
out to
that's awesome.
Best Dad
Yeah.
705. So I think that might be Lukey if I'm having to guess. But yeah, good on you guys for shouting us out. Maddie's gone. Great potty, boys. Quick question. In your opinion, what is the best way to use the flex position this year? So what do you think about that?
Best way to use it. I think still I'm very heavy on having three fullbacks as your flex and having the third fullback. That being said, you can use it to sort of do short-term plays and fill that with like a cheapie for a week, knowing that you've got the cash in the bank or you're gonna move to one of these big hitters the following week. But I wouldn't be doing that for too long. I think the flex needs to be someone that is a gun, and usually by gun I mean, you know, one of those top dogs. So two, three halfbacks or three fullbacks is the way I'd be going. Or this year, it seems to be the year of the second rower as well. You could maybe even chuck in an extra second rower.
Yeah, good stuff there. I agree with Zave, but I think it should just be used as a fullback. So I get it if you're doing a quick 1, 2 week play where someone's just in there to cover and then you're bringing in a fullback soon. But I really think the way to go is three fullbacks because as we've seen over the years, it's always the highest average position scorer in Supercoach. So just makes sense to get as many as you can this year. Zachy's gone. Hughes or Ecat? Now he ended up doing Campbell to Ekatoa, but who would you go there in a Hughes versus Ecat situation?
Ali Qatar all day for me. What about you, mate?
Yeah, I agree with that. Before the Hughes, obviously a bit of hindsight, I was pretty big on Hughes, but as we've seen with Eli Katoa this year, he just seems to be that guy. He's just so far and above the rest of the second rowers now. I know we've got a few coming through now, which
Yeah.
is good, but I think just at the top echelon there, he's really leading the charge this year. So yeah, I would agree with Sol there with saying Eli Katoa is the go, which looked like he ended up going. So hope he did all right on the weekends. Again, another game, didn't do too much, but still pumped out 71 or whatever it was. Do you know
That's it.
how?
In saying that though, like I do believe Hughes is an awesome pod buy. His ownership's low. I do really like him, but just for a buy in the short term, I'm really happy to hear that you didn't go Hughes after he copped an injury last week. You would have been filthy if you went that route and he's got 16 points after an injury. But I think moving forward, I've definitely got a keen eye on Hughes, seeing how he goes with hope. Hopefully he loses a bit of cash with that 16 in his rolling average. But I just think he's a great pod as well. Not discrediting him at all, but there's a certain uncertainty. Like I'm quite happy with Cleary and Hines as my halfbacks, and I don't want to forego a third fullback for Hughes. That being said, you can do it. Whereas with Eli Katoa, I'm so confident that he's going to be a top three second rower, and in my opinion, he is the number one guy, and he will be the number one guy by season's end.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Just on the halves, though, I know on the weekend, I don't know, I'm getting a bit annoyed with Hines at the moment. So I obviously wouldn't be going Hines to Hughes at the moment, but definitely a potential trade there in the next month, so to see. But we'll have to see how he goes, especially with Hughes's injury history recently. And just last comment here, I'm assuming it's probably from one of your cousins, Sol. He's
Yeah, it
gone,
is.
Dave, who's the best rugby '08 player you've gone up against?
Wouldn't be you, Iris. Wouldn't be you. Yeah. Um, No, to be fair, I used to get smacked up by Osiris in Rugby 08 back in the day. So yeah, it's a funny little comment there. Just remember, Lottie Takiri, Shane Williams, Brian Habana, those sorts of guys. He used to just abuse the speed and run around me. So um, yeah, but I reckon if we ran it back in today's age, I would have him for sure.
There you go. But no, we appreciate the support. Love it, guys. Don't forget, keep commenting up. We'll get back to your comments on the next episode podcast. That wraps up the YouTube comments from last week. So now to get into Supercoach things, let's go. League, as per usual, quick little league shout out. Code 849156. We're up to 112 now as well. So every week, a couple of latecomers are still tinkling in, but we got to remember round 10 is the cutoff for that. This week, bit of a change in the rankings up here. We've got a new bloke in number one. We've got Jet Speed. We've got Nathan's team sitting in 128th overall.
Far out. That's
That is,
awesome.
that is awesome. We'll quickly go through your team just because you're doing so well.
Yeah, killing it.
Here we go. So you got Smith on Paddy. Geez, on Paddy, 4 points. Haas.
Gee.
Yeah, that's it. But he's in 128th, I guess. So who we to judge? He's
Him and
got
Riley Smith, eh?
serious battle. Haas, May, Taps, and AFB in the front row. Now,
Whoa,
I
that
love
is
that front row forward.
stacked.
That
That's
is, I really like that front row forward.
Geez, Tarpany's a huge pod. Well done, man. I can only applaud that. That's massive. He's gone berserk these last couple of rounds. So massive applause to you going that route. And I think AFB is going to start lifting as well. So that's probably that is the top four front row forwards. And you've also got Tino there in your second row. So that's nuts.
Yeah, this is insane depth. I'm loving that big in the front row forward. It looks so good.
Yeah, it does.
Um, moving on to second row, you've got ECAT, Preston, Horse, Tino, Hubner, Egan. That you've nailed the second row as well. I can start to see why you're ranked 128th now. You've got Cleary Hines in the halves. You've got Munster and Enough at 5'8". That's interesting to see Enough play at 5'8".
Yeah, it is. Can't he's doing so well, but I think at some point you're gonna have to find some cash to move things around there because obviously Munster will play Origin, but at the moment it's working out, and 5'8's not really a high ceiling position at the moment. Like we've got Jaden Campbell and Munster, and that seems to be where it ends. Burning comes back this week, but yeah, it's working out well.
Yeah, I did, well, because of this front row forward pack he has, that's two reserves pretty much every week.
Yeah,
And so after that, he's already locking in another one on Hines. So between the rest of it, I kind of get it. I'm liking the little setup of his team there. Moving on to wing centers, he's got Holmes, great pod, love that. Purdue, who the one that got away, we should have
yeah,
sold him that one. 533K with a negative 20 break even or whatever it is. Wow, he's really found his strength, and every game he's just getting better and better. The bloke who I sold him for, Tamale, he, well, just a quick little side point then. Tamale, did you think that was a try assist on the weekend? Because we've seen, I don't
yeah,
know if there's a bit of inconsistency with Supercoach with, I know Nathan Cleary on the weekend, he got that try assist for the grubber that was going dead. Bostock went to boot it out, got the real weird bounce and was given as a try assist. But for
mm,
Tamales, one that went for he looked for the offload, ball got hit out by Simonson, obviously landed for Huddy Young and then scored. He didn't get paid. I think he got 4 points, was it? Try contribution? I
yeah.
think
He
that's
just
all he
got four
got for
points.
it.
I Yeah, we had a bit of a chat on this on the weekend because obviously we were up against each other in the head-to-head, and I played Tamale and you didn't, so there might have been a little bit of bias there from my side. But I firmly believe that if Cleary gets that TA, where he's kicked it to Bostock. Bostock's had a stab at it, touched it, and then it's just gone fallen straight into the lap of Moses Leoto, I believe it was. That's the exact same scenario as what happened with Tamale, except it was a pass instead of a kick. He passed it into a player, the player knocked it back, and then that gets jumped on. Also, similar thing with so you see Cleary gets awarded that, and then Munster, one of the reasons I think he updated 8 points is because he did a over the head pass. If you go watch the highlights of the Storm versus Warriors game, he did it over the head pass, and our right winger, Tuapiki or whoever was standing out there, has touched it, and Coates has gone down the flank and got a line break, and Munster consequently got a line break assist. So they've awarded that off a touch of a pass, but they're not awarding Tamale. So I just would like to see a bit more consistency there. In my opinion, that's a try assist to Tamale, especially even more so that we're awarding Cleary points for his try assist and we're awarding Munster points for the exact same thing, pretty much where he's passed the ball, he's got a line break assist off a touch pass. So yeah, I think you've got a differing opinion on that, or have you come
No,
around?
it's pretty similar because I just think, first of all, I wasn't surprised that Tamale didn't get the try assist for that try. I was more surprised that Cleary did get the try assist for that try. So there probably comes some confusion now, where it's like what is, what isn't. I know on the weekend in one of our head-to-head group chats, one of the blokes was blowing up with all the Jack Howarth try assists that apparently were robbed. That
Yeah,
I think it
yeah,
was quite clear that it was Pappy that swept.
yeah.
And we've seen in super coaches over the years now, it's always the fullback who sweeps will usually get the try assist. Only
Oh,
if the
almost
center,
always.
yeah, pretty much
Yeah, that
only there's hardly ever it doesn't. So yeah,
well,
there's always Paps.
the only scenario the fullback doesn't get it on a sweep play is we saw it with who was it? It's basically whenever the center goes into contact and they offload the ball, then it's the center's try assist. Other than that, if a fullback is sweeping, it's the fullbacks. I'm just trying to remember the scenario from the weekend where a center went into contact after
It was the Cows game, I'm pretty sure.
uh, who was it?
Might have been Drinky, Purdue, and
Mm,
Talangi.
I can't
Either way,
can't
all
quite
we're
remember.
asking
Yeah.
for is
Anyway,
consistency. We're just asking
yeah,
for some consistency from the super coaches. We
yeah.
get it with the fullbacks now, but yeah, with that one with Tamale, the Tamale players, blokes who played him, are blowing up. We're blowing up deluxe. So yeah, but back to Jet Speed's team again. Centers, he's got DeGroot in there. I think that's interesting. And fullbacks, Pappy Gutho, can't complain with that. And then Iongi is still there. But obviously you're not reserving because you got a great team depth. So yeah, I think that's a really strong team there, mate. I think, yeah, you should probably look at maybe upgrading 5'8" or some of your bench centers now with all the bunch, well, all the cheapies about to come through in center wing. But yeah, like for that ranking at this part of the season and have your team set up like that, I think you're in good speed. So yeah, any comments there, Zave?
No, awesome team. I really like a lot of your pods. Like you've got Preston, Fanil, Blake, Tarpany. These aren't people that you see in genuine sides, and then Holmes, and then looping Holmes as well. I really like the look of your side. It'll be interesting to see what you decide to do this week with someone like Yongi. I think you would hold, but that's also a couple of I think you hold another week, but there's a couple of good options. It'd be interesting to see what sort of movements you make there with your forward pack so stacked and with all these other options sort of putting their hand up at the moment.
Yeah, so we'll come back to it next week. If you're leading the league, Jetstar, Nathan, we'll come back and we'll see how you went. Moving on this week for me, I moved down 396 spots, so a slight little red arrow down to just outside the top 2K now. So I got at 1196 and I lost here in the head to head, mate. It just wasn't my week. It started off really well. I thought Tui, a couple of early tries. Then he obviously went down in the second half with a hamstring injury. Gutho got caught. watching the whole day. They just kept cutting him out, and the halves really stepped up that game. Any other day, Gutho tons up in that game. So just didn't get that right. Then I played Arthur's, got the HIA, didn't play on. Like it just wasn't my week to be, but we take it. Only 400 spots down, lost sort of thing. Still just outside the top 2K. And yeah, it's looking to bounce back this week and bounce back with a boost this week. So just a quick little preview there. I'm thinking I'll be boosting this week. How about you, mate? You might have moved up the ranks this week. It'd be a bit easier to find you, hey?
Yeah, that's it, mate. Had a really good week this week actually. So got how many spots? Ran up about 14k spots up into 6k now, which is awesome. Obviously, yeah, as Fisher touched on, had you in the head-to-head, mate. It's always good to get one up on you there. So I'm happy with that. After a bit of a slow start, where you've been whacking me every other week, but the week that we verse seems to my fortunes turn. So we'll take that. Yeah, well, I guess the main talking point is our captain Pappenhausen. So he's been that right there is when you captain someone that goes for 136 points and is close to the top score of the round, you're gonna have a good week. So that was huge for me. And Tedesco as well. I just want to touch on him. He's just been unreal for me. Absolutely a revelation. I jumped on in round three when he had the Titans. Very early days. His ownership's still low. His price is very high still. But I went from Ponga to Tedesco a couple of weeks back, and that could not have worked out better, as we know, with Ponga, you know, having the buy and then rolling into really low scoring games from him. I think I did the math and it was about 200 point swing, 200 plus point swing in the last 3 weeks from that trade alone. Plus, I didn't lose any money. So Tedesco's been awesome. I'm really quite happy with how my side's looking at the moment. I got Grant in last week for Pakes as a bit of an early go. I'm really happy with that trade and happy to lock in Grant for the year. And I also got in Dylan Egan over Tom Cant, and I couldn't be happy with him as a buy. In the side, I played him too. So those are a couple of the little moves that went well. Couldn't have asked for much of a better week, really. Obviously, bring Tino back this week, but got a couple of the sit starts right, but it's not do or die sort of thing with Tamale going quite low and Toya also not doing very well either. I could have got a couple extra points if I had gone elsewhere, but in my centre wing. But overall, quite happy with how the side looks, and yeah, hoping to see move up and start challenging. After being 60k, then I moved into 30k and now into 6k. So it's been quite good movements lately, and I'm hoping to keep up the momentum.
That's it, mate. Yeah, the side's looking pretty good. As you said, you had a very good week last week. It seemed everything you touched turned to gold. So hopefully onwards and upwards for you, and you start chasing up, and we both start moving up now in the league against you
That's
guys.
That's it, mate. Thanks. Yeah, that's definitely the hope. And yeah, just to anyone that you think don't try look at rankings too much. It's still very very early days, and the gaps between someone ranked at 1,000 compared to someone ranked at 20,000 really isn't that big in the scheme of it this early in the season, and you can make up those points easily. So hang in there. Supercoach is a funny game, and you can just make up points quite easily. All it takes is one big week and it turns your fortunes around. So, and a couple of good trades and captaincy options. So,
That's it,
um,
mate.
just got to keep chipping away.
That's it. You can certainly tell when the chips are up when they all turn. Moving moving on now to TLT. So as per, we're getting quicker with this. We'll just quickly cruise through TLT, just really the changes for the week, and then our tip and any talking points that we won't get to on later on. So for the Thursday night game, mate, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, Matt, I'll take it away quickly. Just a quick side note as well. With the tips last week, I went seven from eight, which I'm stoked about. Really, gonna yeah, really got that Roosters call last week. I came on here and said that the Roosters would beat the Broncos, so I'm really stoked with that call and that the Roosters showed up, and hopefully can go 7 from 8 or even 8 from 8 this week in the tips as well. Again, I'm trying to run you down. You're up in second in our league in that one, so hopefully can make up some ground again this week. So
That's
for
it, mate.
teamlet, yeah.
Got to pay that Chookies tip. You're massive on it, and
Mm.
they paid off. They really showed up, and I think the Broncos just didn't really show up, and the Chookies were just up for it and wanted it more. So yeah, got to pay that. Good tip there.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Yeah, the only one that messed up was the first one with the Panthers and the Finns. So hopefully onwards and upwards from here, and we can make a run for the cash and the tipping as well. So first game tomorrow night, Seagulls and Dragons at the Seagulls home ground. So Seagulls flying winger Jason Saab returns after missing the Sharks game due to an ankle injury. We took him to Perth and we probably expected him to get on the park, but with it being a really busy period, the medical staff said another 5 days would be the most sensible way to go. That's what Anthony Seibold said on him on Wednesday. Olakuatu took a knock to the shoulder in Perth, but should be the right to play with Lachlan Croker. Still another week following season knee surgery. Off-season knee surgery. The Dragons, emerging back rower Dylan Egan, has been named on the interchange despite leaving the field late with an elbow concern in the win over the Titans. Winger Christian Tuipulotu's absence with a hamstring injury sees Matt Fiongai promoted for his first game since round one. The Dragons have won only one of their last 7 games at Four Pines Park. Geez, I didn't know that. That's a bit of a stat there for the tippers out there.
There you go. You get all sorts on the Hooked on NRL SuperCoach podcast, lads. So talking points for the Seagulls, not much. There's just probably two that I reckon is worth talking about. I think the first one is Olakuatu. I think it's clear that these Eli Katoa, these David Fafita, even your Angus Crichtons, I think they are in a league above Olakuatu. And I know,
Yeah.
especially as an Olakuatu non-owner, I have absolutely zero interest in going to an Olakuatu when I'm in a position that I'm looking to upgrade my second row forward. For me, that position right now, I have Eli Katoa up number one, David Fafita number two. After that, you can chop and change with a lot of the front row forward, second row forward duels. But yeah, at this point, I'm just not that keen on Olakuatu. What do you reckon about that? What do you reckon of
I,
be?
I completely agree, especially at the ownership. Olakuatu is so damaging, but when he does have these damaging games, he really does struggle to ton up still. I think if we look through his stats, he doesn't ton up as much as you would think a player as damaging as him would. And, when he doesn't get the attack, he scores 43. Whereas with those, you want players with the attacking upside, but when we talk about Angus Crichton and Eli Katoa, for example, when they have a bad game, they're getting 70. Um, so I would have those two along with Fafita when he's at his peak and wanting the ball. Those would be my top three. And then Hudson Young as well has been awesome. Can't fault him. So he would be a massive pod around there as well. I'd go all four of those guys ahead of Olakuatu. And especially with the Seagulls having a bye coming up as well, I wouldn't be looking towards him. There's actually someone I'll touch on later as well in the second row that I have a bit of an eye on. And I think he's going to, I'll say it now, it's Britton Nikora. He's at 600k now, and I just think the Sharks have a really good draw coming up, and I think he's gonna go on a bit of a run here. That's my opinion. I'm not bringing him in, but I definitely did look at it. So yeah, second row is one of those positions this year where there's a lot of high scorers at the moment.
That's it. Nothing more to touch on for the Seagulls, I reckon. Moving
No,
on to the Dragons, a bit more to touch on. First one, we see the absence of Tuipulotu. That is, as I sort of mentioned earlier, it's just such an annoying, frustrating injury because to me, he's looked like someone who is a genuine gun. I think his average is like 85. That left edge for the Dragons really looks on, and he also has a good base as well. Like he's a tackle buster, he's an offloader. He really has the whole package. So I was very keen on holding. So I still am keen on holding, but we obviously haven't heard anything out of the Dragons camp in regards to his injury length, which is a bit frustrating as an owner. But here's someone that is definitely on the chopping block this week. The only other one I want to touch on for the Dragons now is Dylan Egan. So I didn't get Dylan Egan last week. You did. And this week, as per last week, he's named in the 17, but last week he was a late inclusion to start. So, firstly, do you reckon Egan starts this week?
tough to say. I've been hearing mixed reports from all over. Basically, there was a report last week saying that he came in. Oh, I think he does. In short, I think he's going to come in late. There was a report saying that he only started because Luciano was vomiting and a bit sick last week. But then in the presser, apparently Shane Flanagan came out and said that they're looking to utilize Laylaw off the bench, which makes sense to me. I think Egan's a beast and has earned the spot. He's shown that he's got a big motor, whereas Luciano, I think, is a bit more of an impact player and would be quite well utilized off the bench. It's just, they're paying Luciano a lot of money, so whether Shane Flanagan's got the nuts on him to make a play like that, I think he does, and I think Egan will start this week. And if he does, I think regardless, I think he's a great buy. But if he starts again, I think if you don't own him, you should get him in.
Yeah, so that's kind of the predicament I'm in. I obviously don't own him, but I have a very keen eye on him, and it's just if he's off the bench and number 17, like come game day, I just don't think it is worth sort of that trade, that boost, just because I've already generated a lot of cash this year. I'm at 14.5 million already.
Yeah.
Um, but again, if he is named to start, this could be a starting second rower moving forward. 80 minutes, Maul's work, has a base of about 60, 70, very easily playable as well. So I think if he starts and named to start in the final cut sort of hour before kickoff, I think I'm gonna have to go in just because he looks so good. But yeah, apart from that, I don't have any other real talking points from the Dragons. Hopefully Gutho can bounce back this week, get a bit more involved. And I actually have I think the Dragons really could get up for this, and I don't really rate the Seagulls without Travojevic. So at the moment, I'm on the Dragons by 6 or 4, but obviously it could be a good game, a good game at Brookvale Oval on Thursday night. So that could be a late switch, but at the moment I've tipped the Drags by 6. How about you?
Yeah, man, I'm with you on that with the Dragons. I think that could show up. At the moment, though, I am on the Seagulls by 4. It's just the home ground advantage for me and the halves pairing. I look at Luke Brooks and Cherry Evans, and then I look across and see Flanagan and Ilias. I think the forward packs are quite evenly matched as well, but Gutherson is huge. So is Cook when you compare those spine positions across to Tavanga and Hopewade. So it's just a bit of a much of a muchness. I think if the game was at home, I'd tip the Dragons at Wynn Stadium, but at the moment, I'm on the Eagles, subject to change as well with you, mate. I just want to touch on before we quickly move on as well. Bit of a shout out to Toby Couchman, who based 80 plus points in 50 minutes last week. So that's unreal. Obviously, with so many front row forward options this year, the likes of him and Lindsay Smith, who have been killing it and just flying under the radar, are just, not really being brought in or looked at. Whereas a season like last year, well, everyone was flocking to someone like Curran, who you could just plug in there and trust every week for a safe score. And a season like that, Couchman or Lindsay Smith would have been perfect. But this year, it's just the nature of how things are gone. It's just really tough to fit someone like him in, really.
I think that's it. And yeah, you got 82 in 52 minutes on the weekend, and he's just
In
outstanding.
base, he's
Yeah,
he's that's
he did nothing.
unreal.
Like, he does more
Yeah.
work. It's just there was a lot of because he's obviously risen so much in price now, but early doors he played that 80-minute game and he punched out another massive score, but there was all the talk about how many minutes does he get. But I think it's pretty clear that Flano's a big fan of him and he should play about 50 minutes every week. If there's injuries, probably even more sort of thing. But I think if you're an owner, you'd be cheering. Moving on to the first game of Friday, Arvo, we got the Dogs and the Bunnies.
Awesome, mate. So for the Bulldogs, Filiama Kikau has been named in the extended squad as he eyes a return from a knee injury. A call will be made closer to game day on whether the barnstorming back rower returns or is held back for one more week. The word that I'm hearing is that he's going to be right to play. 5'8" Matt Burton is a certain starter after 3 games out with a knee injury, so Bailey Hayward goes back to the bench. For the Bunnies, Cody Walker has been named to return from a hamstring injury, but he still has a couple of hoops to jump through. Bennett came out and said captain's run will be his fitness test. He trained Monday and was off off the legs Tuesday because he's old now. They've got to get the old fella. Sorry, this is a quote by Jai Arrow. Got to get the old fella off his legs, and I'm just thinking to myself while reading that, there's no way Wayne Bennett would say the old fella about Cody Walker and rest him as much as possible. Englishman Lewis Dodd has been named on the bench for his first NRL game, while Josh Schuster has been listed among the reserves after returning to the field in New South Wales Cup last weekend. That is a lot to go through, mate. There's some massive inclusions in this game. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think kick us off with the Dogs. The main bloke I'm attracted to and very, very interested in here is Jacob Carraz. So we saw not last week because I had the bye, but the week before that, he punched out a 61 in a game where he really didn't do anything. And I know as an owner last year, he just does that week in, week out. And add in a game where he scores a try, he's tunning up. And so I think it's a very good pod play this week. I'm very, very interested in it myself. I think at 700k it could be a bit steep, but just to lock him in, obviously there's some talk about he could play Origin, but I think if Lomax comes back, even plays one game, it will be his Origin jersey. So I don't think Kraz will make Origin, at least for round one at the game one at the moment. So yeah, he's someone I'm really interested in. How about you? What do you think of Kraz? You reckon he's a good buy?
Yeah, mate, he's awesome buy. Couldn't wrap it enough for in short for me this week. I think the three people that I don't have in my team that I'm really keen on buying is Karaz, Fafita, and Eli Katoa. Those are my top three. Those three guys are absolute guns. So yeah, fully with you there on Karaz.
Yeah, we see obviously Matty Burden come back from injury after the bye. I think this will be good things for the Dogs. I know we've seen this start of the year at least their defense has been really exceptional. Like that's where they're winning their games in defense. But I think with Burden back, that should hopefully improve the Dogs' attack. And I think for me, someone who doesn't have any of the Dogs boys at the moment, so I think Kraz really is that ticket into the Dogs. So yeah, anything else you want to touch on for the Dogs?
No, not really, mate. Matt Burden is someone I've got a very, very keen eye on. I've got Jaden Campbell and Dewey, who's obviously got centre wing eligibility as well in my 5'8" at the moment. And I've been sort of saving that spot, not going for Munster, for example, in that second spot because I'm keen on Burden and keen on the Dogs. So keen eye on him this week to see how he goes, if he's goal kicking back from the knee injury, etc. And then I'll be looking to bring him in very soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Like that play, mate. For the Bunnies, I think Jai Gray's time in this team is coming closer and closer to an end. We obviously see Cody Walker back now. We see Campbell Graham back as well. I think in the next couple games, I think Latrell will be back at fullback, and that makes it really interesting for Supercoach. Obviously, can't jump on yet, and it's almost getting to that point in the season where when do we don't pick players because of Origin? We got to start by planning and
Hmm.
Origin planning. So that will be an interesting one to see sort of when he does get that fullback position back, because he's someone I'm very, very interested in. But yeah, apart from that, he's the only one I'm really interested in at the Bunnies. Obviously, Lockley Hubner is just chipping away, making some cash. No need to sell, just happy to hold him through. Any talking points for you there, mate?
Nah, nothing from me there from a super coach standpoint. Like obviously eyes on Latrell to see when he goes fullback, but nothing in the short term. And also they've got the Dogs this week and the Storm next week. So even if he was named at fullback next week, I wouldn't go. So other than that, not much to talk about from super coach standpoint at all.
Who you got in this?
I I'm very, very I'm massive on the Dogs this year, but I'm very, very tempted to tip the Bunnies, and I think I might. Um, I I'm I really think I might. I think Latrell and Cody in the halves is massive, and Campbell Graham back's huge as well. Um, I'm gonna go Bunnies for now, but subject to change. It would depend on the first game. If I get that right, I'm gonna back in the underdogs here, I think, and the Bunnies.
Yeah, I just think dogs at home, Good Friday, they're gonna win, and they're gonna probably win easily and hopefully score a bunch of points if I get in Carraz.
Yep,
Moving on to the second game of Friday night, we have the Dolphins and the Storm, mate.
huge game here at Suncorp. So for the Dolphins, we have Ray Stone served a suspension and he's come back to be 18th man. But other than that, we've got Josh Kerr that plays as a 100th match, but it's basically the same squad for the Dolphins. And then the Storm, we've got Hughes is all good to play after he suffered a bit of a niggle last week. And if he, well, sorry, Hughes is all good to play. And then we've got the loss of Moses Leo to a fractured shoulder, sees Grant Anderson move to the centres, and Fa'alongo coming on the wing for his first NRL appearance of the season. Not too much, not as much inclusions or exclusions in this one, mate. Anything you want to touch on?
Yeah, not much from the Dolphins. Only one would be Herbie Farnworth. I think he is one of the top five guns this year in center wing. I think he scored one try so far this year and is averaging 70 points a game. Like, he's just insane. And I really think he can take it to another level. So, depending on how Dolphins go on this run, he's someone that I definitely have my eye on and definitely I like as a pod play. But apart from that, nothing really else interests me at the Dolphins. How about you?
Yeah, fully back that, mate. It would be for me the only players of interest here are Herbie, but not looking at him this week as such. And then also Max Plath, if you don't have a hooker, I think is another good option from their team, but nothing really else to touch on.
Yeah, a bit more for the Storm. Obviously, Eli Katoa, both non-owners here. He's someone you'll want in your side come round
Yeah.
11, just before the Origin period. And the way he's performing, I just don't think he's getting any cheaper. Like, he's already at 760K this week. He could easily come round 11, round 12. It'll be 800 plus K. It's gonna take a lot to get to him, sort of thing. So I'm of the opinion of probably the sooner you get him, the better. You can just lock his points in every week, set and forget, and just move on. Apart from that, obviously Grant is probably the hooker to own at the moment. It's just I still just don't see that upside in the hooker position. And we kind of saw on the weekend, Grant got 76 with a try and a couple of try assists. So obviously he's probably that guy to own in the hooker position. He's the gun there. But just with how Sandon's going this year, easily plug and play for 50 points. You can just lock that in and chase the upside elsewhere. But apart from that, for the Storm, that's about all I have. How about you, mate? Anyone you want to touch on for the Storm?
Yeah, I'll just go on the back of what you have said here. Eli Katoa for me couldn't rate the buy any higher. I'm sick of not owning him, and he's coming into my side this week. I don't care about Fafita. I don't care about Karaz. He is my number one target. He is the guy want on my side, and I've had enough. And he's due for a try this week, and I really think that he's gonna come out and blitz that Dolphins edge, honestly. So I'm keen. I've even toyed with captaining him as well. I've just got some sort of feeling about getting him in this week, and yeah, I'm just over not owning him. He's not at an unreasonable price compared to what he could be, and if he puts out and the draw's too nice to not have him. Harry Grant, obviously, I bought him in last week. Couldn't be happier. I'm happy to just lock him in and never worry about playing hooker roulette again. He'll be my hooker for the season. Set and forget on him. I'm all in on, like most people, all in on the draw, and I'm happy to sort of lock in those three as my storm play. Sorry, those two as well as Pappenhausen as my sort of storm contingent players for this run and for the season, basically. Unless Pappenhausen loses goal kicking, I could see myself trading him out. But Grant and Katoa will not move anywhere, barring injury. Other than that, for anyone that plays draft, I think Fa'alongo is an awesome draft pickup this week and could really do do some dangerous things against, I think he's on no, well, he's just such an exciting player, and he's on the wing on a Storm side, so he could blitz it, and if I think he's a really good pickup this week. Other than that, not too much else to touch on there, mates.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game Friday night as Suncorp and Dolphins obviously coming off back-to-back wins now. I don't think they'll win, but I do think they'll turn up. And I see the Storm winning, but maybe not a flogging like last week. I think they'll be a lot closer this week. And I think, yeah, I'm having a funny. Dolphins could very well upset, but I'm tipping the Storm. I think they will win, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Dolphins continue their form at home in Suncorp. But obviously, a couple of the Storm players just love Suncorp as well. But yeah, it should be a
Yeah.
cracker.
That's it. I haven't even thought about tipping the Dolphins. A storm in this one, and I think they're gonna pump the Dolphins in here. And I think Pappenhausen, if you're an owner like we are, has to be a heavy consideration for one of those armband choices in this.
Definitely agree there, mate. Moving on to the first game of Saturday. I think we only got two games on Saturday this week. 5:30, we got the Wars and the Bronx.
Yeah, mate. So for the Warriors, we've unfortunately copped a lot of outs lately. Now we've got Fisher Harris faces at least a month with a pectoral injury. So Jackson Ford goes to the front row. Fullback Chance Nicole Clocksad has entered the concussion protocol. So Tane Tuapiki moves to the number one, and Ed Cossey comes in on the wing. Oh, as a Warriors fan, that hurts to see those outs. But also Ed Cossey, I'm so sick of seeing this guy playing first grade. He's such like sorry to say it, he's just same as Townsend. I just don't get how he's in first grade or even gets a nod. He can't catch a high ball to save his life. So I'm really not happy about that. Anyway, we'll keep moving on about the team list. Tamade Martin has been added to the bench for his first game of the season, and Adam Pompey plays his 100th game. For the Broncos, a double blow for Jack Kaczewski with a one-game suspension for a careless high tackle compounded by a broken arm suffered at training. He's always so injury prone, this guy, throughout his whole career. He's had
Mm.
surgery and is expected to be out for 8 weeks. Jordan Ricky returns after serving a one-game ban. A new face on the bench with Tyson Smoothie coming in for his first game since round 20 last year in place of Marty Tapau. What do you think about that, mate?
Yeah, not much really to touch on for the Wars. I only want to just quickly shout out to Aaron Clark. Kind of caught it a couple podcasts ago. I thought as soon as the Dylan Walker transfer happened, I thought he would really step up and play bigger minutes and really get through his work. And I think we've seen back-to-back 70 scores from Aaron Clark there. Obviously, a bit of a tricky buy in Supercoach Classic, but yeah, just I think he's getting through some good work for the Wars. But yeah, apart from that, no real interest in the Wars. How about you?
Yeah, Aaron Clark looks really good from us since that Dylan Walker departure. Um, just a couple of quick things. I think with Fisher Harris being out for a month, Mitch Barnett's minutes are going to go up. So have a bit of an eye on him to see if he can reach the heights of last year. We know how damaging he can be. He just hasn't been getting the minutes this year. So just wanted to touch on that briefly. Wade Egan, awesome hooker option in my opinion as well. And I've sort of been saying that all season, but I just don't think he is a Harry Grant, for example. But he's someone worth mentioning. Leka Halasima, one of our most exciting, probably our most exciting young prospect, actually gets a start, which is huge for him and for anyone that owns as well, because I would be playing heavily considering playing him this week just with the attacking upside he possesses. And I kind of want us to stick like that. I want us to play Halasima and I want Capewell and as a Warriors fan and Niakura, I want us to blood these young guys in instead of giving, these veterans a crack. And just as a pure NRL and Warriors fan, Kurt Capewell in the centers with Cozzy on the wing is just disaster. Like I'm not keen at all to watch this game. I'll be in Sydney, thankfully, so I might miss it. But I really think that backline is just shocking. That we're fielded down, we're going to get torched. Obviously, it's a home game, so you never know. We always seem to do better at home. But yeah, that backline with Capo and Cozzy does not fill me with any hope at all. So I'm happy to move on to the Broncos.
Yeah, so obviously with Gosevsky being out, I think he's obviously a very, very easy sell. But in saying that, he's not a must sell. Like, I know one of the trades I'm really looking at this week is obviously Gosevsky to Egan, which I think if Egan does start, I think that's a bit of a no-brainer trade. Just lock that sort of trade in. But if if you're not going to a Gazette, if you're not going to sort of a Dylan Egan, I think there's no real rush to sell him. He's obviously not going to be playing for a couple like 8 weeks or whatever it'll be. So don't need to sell straight away. You can hold for another week. Just depends on who your buys in because it's more important about who you're getting in rather than who you're selling. So Gosevsky is someone who's not going to lose or make much or not make any cash, but just sit there if I'm more interested in, say, getting a Carraz or a David Fafita or whatever, then I'd be happy to just bench him. and then grab the other thing if that makes sense. Apart from that, Shiba and Arthurs, I think their time is close to being up in Supercoach's sides, and in particular my side. I know there's a couple plans and trade iterations I've had this week, which has had both those players out, along with who is it? Tui. But there's just so much going on in my trade. So yeah, not much else I want to speak about there. Probably starting to get off the Bronx assets, I think, with the draw shifting and changing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely agree there, mate. And I really rate that Goz to Egan move, regardless of if he starts or not. I did that move last week, obviously before the price rise, and I think it's still viable this week for sure. And as far as Shiba and Arthurs go, they're definite sells, but at the same time, I think with this matchup, you can play them on those edges, playing it if they're left side, just trying to think. If they're up against Capo and Cozzy, and Capo and Cozzy on the same edge, that's gold in my opinion, and I'd be happy to play either one of them. But I think you would like to shift off them sooner rather than later. So probably one has to go this week, which is what I'm doing at a minimum. But I feel like they both could be plays this week as well.
Yeah, just quick
Um,
question.
I,
Who would you prefer to play? Shiba or Arthurs if you have both and you got to play one?
if you had both and I had to play one, I would play Arthur's. Just obviously Shibasaki's had the highest score this year, but I just think that we saw what Xavier Coates did to our right edge. Arthur's is a left winger as well, same as Xavier Coates, and Xavier Coates went for 141 points last week. So for me personally, I'm holding Arthur's on the back of that last week, and I think he's very playable. It's also his old side. He used to be a Warrior. I've obviously got Walsh as well, so I'm quite happy to combo the high attack there and hoping that Walsh, well, not really from a Warriors fan point of view, but for a Supercoach point of view, hoping that Walsh would go down the left and feed Arthur's a couple pills. I can't see Arthur's not scoring in this with our right edge defense being abysmal. So Arthur's for me in that.
Yeah, and I have Broncos. I don't know how many they'll win by, but I think they'll bounce back and definitely win it this week.
Yeah, definitely agree, man. I think they'll win, and I unfortunately think that we're going to get pumped this week by 14 points. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic, but yeah. The other thing to just quickly mention before we move on is Smoothie on the bench with Billy Walters. We obviously know that Smoothie's a hooker, Billy's a hooker, so interesting to see how that rotation fares out, especially for someone like Pakes, who I sold to Harry Grant last week. But I think if you have Pakes, you should be looking to sell soon with both of those guys on the bench. Both can play hooker. I think one of them, Smoothie, apparently has been playing in the middle in Q Cup, so maybe that's what happens. But yeah, it's just a bit of danger signs there, I think, for Pakes owners.
Yeah, I think Pakes will be a sell soon enough. It's just, I reckon the way I see this lining up, it'll be, yeah, Smoothie comes on, plays in the middle for Kobe, and then it'll be the sort of usual 60-20 split for Pakes and Walters. But good little watch there. Moving on to the second game of Saturday, we got the Chooks and we got the Panthers.
This one should be an awesome game, mate. So for the Roosters, after returning from a cheekbone injury via the bench last week, Victor Radley has been named to start at lock, although a game day switch with Salisi Foketi could be on the cards. Mark Nwanawitawase is back from a calf injury to fill the void left by Billy Smith's suspension. Trent Robertson is chasing his 200th win as an NRL coach. Panthers. Hooker Mitch Kenny returns after missing the loss to the Dolphins with a shoulder injury, while playmaker Jack Cole has been listed among the reserves as he looks to return from concussion. Youngster Casey McLean and the versatile Luke Garner are the new centres, with Isaac Tungo moved to the bench and Tom Jenkins to the wing. Nathan Cleary needs 4 points to break Ryan Girdler's club record of 1,572 points that has stood since 2004. What are your thoughts on this one, mate?
Yeah, this will be a good game, and I don't know if it's just false belief, but I just can't see the Panthers losing again. I think this will be the week they turn it around. Obviously, the Chooks got up last week and they really turned up, but I think I just back the Panthers in. I don't know what it is in me, but I just think the Panthers will win this game and have their second win of the season sort of thing. So not too much interest in the Roosters. Obviously, Nath White's a bit of concern. We saw him get his lowest score so far this year, I'm pretty sure, in 37 points. Minutes were up. It was like he played about 52 minutes. The work rate just wasn't there in that game. But it was across the board for a lot of the players in that game for the Chooks Broncos. Players just, it wasn't a real middle game sort of thing. So, would you rather hold or sell him or Horsburgh?
I definitely would hold Horsburgh. That being said, I I'm not wedded to like at the moment as it stands, I'm selling Nafahu White, but I don't think he's a an urgent sell or a sell. I think you could easily hold him. It's just with the plethora of second row forward options we have, someone has to make way for these targets that we want. Like we're talking about Egan, we were talking about Cant last week. This week we're talking about Fafita, who's in one of the most traded ends. You know, someone has to make way for these moves to happen, and Nafahu White has definitely bottomed out or peaked, sorry. So I think he's a good trade out target. That being said, if you do hold this week, I think you're holding all the way through the Roosters' goodbye schedule.
That's it. Roosters cover, I think it is 10. 8 games out of 10 of the bye. So they got really good bye schedule. So you will want some chookies moving forward. For the Panthers, we see obviously Blaze Cleary sticks with Blaze and he keeps the six jersey. I think him and Cleary was shocking last week. I don't know what it was. They just weren't on the same length. I think that was the worst attack I've ever seen Penrith play. I think Ivan will have him training the house down this week, especially in attack, because they had so much ball, they just couldn't score any points. Their attack looked so clunky. So I'm expecting a bit of a bounce back from Cleary and his men this week. Nathan Cleary could be a bit of a sneaky C shout, but apart from that, that's all that really interests me at the Panthers. How about you, mate?
Yeah, mate, not too much to touch on this one. Obviously, Jenkins to the wing is good for his attacking output. I much prefer him at the wing as opposed to centre, but I'm fully with you on the Panthers bounce back. It feels like we've been saying it for a few weeks now. But I think if you look back when this all started and their downfall started, it was the Roosters that's, kick-started it with beating the Panthers in a huge upset. And I think if we have a look back to last week with what happened when the Broncos lost to the Roosters after the Roosters absolutely got pumped by them in round one, I could see a bit of a change in tide here, and the Panthers come out, especially with these milestones where Cleary is 4 points off their club record, etc. Looks like Ivan has also pressed for, you know, like he's seen that Isaac Tungo's just been getting torched on the right edge and he's making these defensive changes as well. So I think they'll be up for it. And I'm definitely tipping Panthers in this one. And I think my captain also will come from this game, whether it be Tedesco, who I think a great trade in whenever you can get him in, and or Cleary. But at the moment, of Cleary is definitely a heavy consideration for me for the armband.
Like it, mate. Same as you. I think Panthers win in that one. Moving on to the first game of Sunday, we got the Titans and Raiders.
Awesome. So for the Titans, we see skipper Tino Fasuamalawi is back from suspension, while winger Jojo Fafita and bench forward Isaac Fasuamalawi are also back on deck. After being moved into the starting side last week and playing 74 minutes straight and running for 203 meters, Dave Fafita, the Colossus, is again set to start the game. The Titans have not defeated the Raiders at Cbus Stadium since 2018. Geez, that's a bit of a stat for the tippers out there again, mate. For the Raiders, back rower Hosking makes a return after missing 4 games with a hand injury. So Simi Sasangi drops to reserves in the only change to the side that down the Eels. Veteran Josh Papali'i has been named on the bench, but could well find his way into the starting side come game day. A bit to unpack here, mate. What's your initial thoughts?
Yeah, for the Titans, Dave Fafita, obviously a big watch. We kind of saw on the weekend, well, for me at least, I saw him get back to sort of the David Fifita we know, we love, that tackle busting, the try breaking, the offloads. He had it all. And I really think after that game, he's been rewarded with a start. We see Fermor finally being in the second row and Haas dropped to the bench and David Fifita starting at second row. So I really think it's the start of David Fifita's season. I really think he'll work off the back of that and continue going big over the next couple. If I am to grab a second row forward in this week, it is between Eli Katara and David Fifita. So I've been tossing and toying. I don't really think either of them are a bad choice. I think you'll be happy with both. I think you will end up wanting both. To me, it also comes down to who do I just want to grab now. It could be David Fifita now because he's got the lower break even, but it could also be Eli Qatar because I know his role. David Fifita could very well get benched game day or play 60 minutes. I don't know. Desi's always a crate, the mad scientist. So not quite as certain on David Fifita as I'd like to be for the price. He's certainly not cheap. He's 680k. But yeah, he's the one that I'm really interested in at the Titans. How about you? Who's piquing your interest there?
Yeah, 100% agree, mate. As I said earlier in the episode, Fafita, Eli Katoa, and Karaz were the three targets that I had in mind coming into the week. For me, I just can't part with Eli Katoa though. He's shown it. He's in a great Storm side that I've got no qualms or queries. And I think if you are in a position where you don't have either, I think Eli Katoa is the better buy just because you know what you're paying for. That being said, he's 80k more, but I just am so much more confident compared to Fafita. But that being said, Fafita at his best, and when when we know his role and when he's hungry, is the best second row forward in the game. And to get him at 680k is such a good price. It's just I want to see it one more time. I think because was last week just a one off because but even the week before, he had decent minutes, I believe. He had played like 65 minutes, but he only took 5 carries. So it's just, you never know. I would like to see back-to-back games of Fafita hungry. We also got to factor in Tino was missing last week. Did he take a step up in the attack and hunger more because Tino was away and he wanted to lead a bit more? There's just a bit more. And that's what the 80k difference is. To me, the 80k from Eli Katoa to Fafita is worth the certainty. And at their best, Fafita is better, but Ali Katoa, I just have more faith in spending the money.
Yeah, Dave Fifita also a bit more of a pod play.
Yep.
Moving on to the Raiders, the one that really sticks out to me is obviously we see Zach Hosking back. So a bit of a watch now with the minutes of all these forwards for the Raiders. Obviously, you've got so many guns in there and taps. You got Horse, you got Nicholson, Huddy Young, Tap, Smithies. We got all these blokes who sort of demand and play big minutes. So big watch for Horse and Nicholson for me. I'm thinking of not playing Nicholson this week. I don't think he plays 80. I think we'll see Zach Hosking sort of come on and either replace him directly on the edge or indirectly through the middle. How about you? How do you see it sort of unfolding?
I, as a Nicholson owner as well, mate, I struggle. Oh, I don't know. Like I would be a bit. I'm leaning towards Nicholson not playing 80, just on face value of how that bench looks. Like I would say he's not going to play 80 this week. That being said, though, he's shown that he can score a try, and he's up against the Titans this week on a 2 p.m. Sunday Arvo game, so he could very well cross again. So yeah, it's a bit of a pickle we're in. If Egan, the way my makeup is, if Egan starts, I think I'd play Egan over Nicholson. If not, I'm going to play Nicholson and chase the upside with the tries. But yeah, definitely one to watch heavily this week. And just sorry, I just want to touch on go back to the Titans real quick. We didn't touch on Bo Fermor. He's back in the back in the second row as well for anyone that bought, which I believe would be a sigh of relief for owners. And I've definitely got an eye on him as well because he's going to go below 500k soon. And if he's playing back row, I'm all in on that for sure at that price. But yeah, for the Raiders, not too much else to talk about. Very keen eye on the minute split, and then also sort of a consideration on whether to play Tamale or not. I just think coming off the back of 29 last week, he's surely due for some attack, and this is the day to do it. Seabus Stadium, Titans. 2 p.m. Sunday arvo. Are you considering playing him at all?
Uh, Not particularly just with the way my centers is set up, but I think the Titans get up in this. I think they've obviously had a few down weeks. They get Tino back, their captain, their inspiration. I think at Seabus Stadium, as you sort of mentioned, 2 p.m. Sunday Arvo, the vibes will be up there. I think the Titans get home in this. So yeah, that's obviously my tip. And so on the back of that, I will not be playing Tamale this week. And I think his time in my team is coming to an end. Obviously, not right now, but over the next coming weeks, I think I'd be more than happy to move him on.
Geez, that's funny, man. I'm tipping Titans in this as well. I just think it's going to be a very high scoring game. That's all in this one. Just give me 1 sec. I'll be back in 1 second, mate. I'll let you keep carrying on.
Easy. Moving on to our 4 o'clock game on Sunday, we got the Knights and the Sharks. A couple of changes for the Knights. So we see some troops return with Tyson Gamble taking over in at 7 and James Schiller good to go. So he returns. Crossland moves then from halfback to hooker, and then Jaden Brayley goes to the bench. Frizzell has been named at prop with Thompson reverting to the bench. Croker starts at lock after coming off the bench last week. Matt Arthur drops out. Playmaker Jack Cogger is listed among the reserves as he looks to return from that finger injury. For the Sharks, we see star prop AFB named to play despite leaving the field last week with what looked like a bit of a groin problem. The Sharks stick with the same squad that got the job done against Manly last week. Centre Cal Iro could be another 2 weeks away with a hamstring injury. So, talking points, starting off, we'll go with the Sharks first. Hiroti, I think I was big on him last week and I'm big on him again this week. Obviously, we've still got no confirmed timeline yet for Kale Iro. So I think from all latest reports, it's about a round 8, round 9, which would be two, sort of three cash rises in games out of him. And he's coming in with like a negative 63 break even. If he pulls out a 60 on the weekend, he makes 100K, does it again the week after, he makes another 60K. So I think if he gets 2 weeks, I think it'll be worth the trade and it's worth the boost. Definitely, it's just with all these center wing options we've got available at the moment, I think he's a really good downgrade target. So I'm a big fan of Hiroti. Apart from that, from the Sharks, Hines is obviously a bit of a watch. I just haven't been impressed at all with how Hines has played this year for the Sharks and how he's combined with Trindle. I think it's still a work in progress, and I'm happy to hold. And this should really be a game the Sharks are targeting with how bad the Knights have looked so far this year. So I'm expecting a bit of a bounce back from Hines in this. But yeah, that's all that really interests me for the Sharks. How about you, mate?
Yeah, so have you gone through the Knights as well, or just
No,
the?
we'll do Knights
Oh,
after
okay.
this.
Yeah. So for the Sharkies, mate, not too much from my side of things. Obviously, Hiroti is one of the most purchased player this week. A bit of a teaser. I'm bringing him in this week. I think he's a great purchase. Word is that Hero is going to be out for it was minimum 2 weeks, but apparently he's got a bit of a history with hamstring injuries, so we could see him out for as long as round 12, round 11 sort of areas is what I'm hearing. But regardless, I think you get minimum two price rises. If he gets 57 points this week, as per the SuperCoach app, he will go up 96K. So to me, one trade is worth 100K. So I can't see him not making 100K, and he could even make a lot more than that as well. So other than that, Brendan Nakora, I touched on a bit earlier. I'm really massive on him as a at 600K. It just seems like such value to me. Running at with their draw, running off Hines, I just really think that he's worth more than that and is due to go on a bit of a run sooner rather than later. And then Adam Fanua Blake as well, I think is a good buy at any time. So, oh, sorry, one more person I want to touch on, Jesse Ramian. I brought this up to you earlier today, and I don't think you were a fan, but the Sharks, if you look at their draw, I'm massive on these guys. I really, really want some more Sharks players on my side. I think Ramian's going to have a monster couple of weeks. I'm very tempted. I was looking at boosting Arthur's to Ramian, which is really seems silly to do, but I really do believe in these Sharks guys turning things around and start, piling on some points. So, Just someone to keep an eye on at 500k. Rami and Nakora just seem like great value for what they can be.
Can't disagree with you there, mate. Moving on now to the Knights, and I think obviously the main talking points here is Kalen Ponga and his Knights. So I just don't know what's gone wrong with them. They were humming early doors. Obviously, I think it has coincided with Dylan Lucas and him no longer being in the squad and sort of their pack losing out, and they've got a smaller pack now, which slows down the play of the balls and slow down their get forward. So I think Kalen Ponga is still a good option. It's just the Knights that need to lift around him because he just isn't getting any opportunities or any chances. So as frustrating as it is, definitely hold. And I think sooner rather than later, the same people that sold him are going to be buying him back. So I'm more than happy to just ride the gauntlet now, hold Ponga, and I'm sure the Knights will turn it around. I have enough faith in Ponga and the Knights to turn it around. But yeah, apart from that, I think Gamble will be good for the Knights. I think he should help Kalen get the ball because last year, I think when we saw Kalen at his best, it was with, well, I think it could have even been with Gamble and with who's the Pommy lad went to the Tigers, then went to the Knights, Hastings,
Yeah,
Jacko,
yeah.
Jacko Hastings. I think they really got the idea of just get Pong a quick ball out the back early on and the attack will flow. So hopefully we see a return to that. Apart from that, obviously Thomas Kant keeps the starting spot. No sign yet of Dylan Lucas, which is good signs there. So he's someone I'm looking at playing again this week. But again, Marzu is the last one I want to touch on quickly. He didn't look good at all in real life. Like he had a really bad NRL game, but in Supercoach he got 56 points, 54 points in a side that got battered. So I think good signs Supercoach wise for him, but yeah, I think the Knights as a whole really need to turn it around, and they got to turn it around soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree, mate. I sort of said this a couple weeks ago when I was selling Ponga. It was because I hated, well, it wasn't I didn't see this coming, that's for sure. I didn't see them playing this poorly, but I hated the buy and then I hated that they played the Dogs. I was expecting them to, well, I tipped Tigers, but I was expecting, Ponga to put on a couple points there and he just didn't. So for people, I will say hold. Like I agree with you if you're I know hold because I'm going to be looking at him now, bringing him back in next week because they run into quite a good run of games and he's going to be around 600k. But I'm going to throw this at you, mate. I've just had Will Garrett earlier, basically in our group chat, and he inboxed me saying, should he trade Ponga to Pappenhausen? His other fullbacks are Gutho and Teddy, and it's really hard to put it when you've got Gutho and Teddy who are firing. You've got Ponga, but you don't have Pappy who's going to play the Dolphins and it's going to be very heavily with the armband. I can't really say he's a hold because I think I would sell. I think I would sell Ponga to Pappenhausen in that scenario. Would you agree?
Oh, that is hard. Quite a good dilemma, I suppose, to be in. The only way I would be selling Ponga that week would be if I was selling Gutho in a couple weeks' time to pick up a cheaper Ponga, make about 200k. That plan I sort of could get behind. Like you sell Ponga this week and you buy him back in a couple weeks. But I also do think there's more upside to be chased elsewhere. You've kind of made your bridge without Pappy, you've already been burnt. The 137 has already been scored. Do I think he can keep it up and he could easily do it again? Yes. Pappy this year with the kicking, he could be one of the top three sort of guns. But at the moment, I would argue both Tedesco and Gutho are both firmly in that top three along with Pappy. So Ponga is sort of that odd one out at this point in time. But as I said, the Knights, I'm sure they'll turn it around. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I'm sure they'll turn it around. And Ponga is Ponga. He's a superstar of the game, a Dally M medalist. But I'm saying I would sell to Pappy in that scenario, I think. Are you in the same boat, or would you say you would hold and just fight off? Not only because Pappy's got a 18 break even, Ponga's got a 145 break even, regardless. And I think Pappy's going to outscore Ponga this week. Quite.
Yeah. I
So
think you'd be so frustrated if you did go ahead and then Ponga tons up this game. But as I said, I like it if you're going to sell Gutho in a couple of weeks to get Ponga back because
yeah.
I do think you'll want Ponga back. And especially with Origin coming up soon, I wouldn't really want to be burning trades on selling and then buying back, especially because we've already lost all the value in Ponga now. He's down to 670k or whatever it is. So, yeah, that tricky one, very tricky one.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Other than that, not too much else to touch on. Obviously, I think Dylan Lucas obviously is touted to come back as early as next week, and if not, round nine. So that was part of the reason I didn't jump on Tom Cance is because I just didn't, and I liked Egan more because I saw more of a long-term play, which is what I said last week. But that being said, Tom Cant's like a weapon. He tries really hard. He's going to play 80, and he's an easy play. But I just think he's only got a -3 break even now this week, and then next week he's probably gone. And if he goes to the bench, you're probably going to have to sell as soon as next week if he's on the bench.
Yeah, will definitely be a big watch on TLT next week. For me in this, I have the Sharks. I just can't back the Knights in again with no confidence, but this could be a game where the Knights turn it around. Hopefully they do, but I'll be tipping the Sharks.
I have the Sharks as well, man. I think, just Adam O'Brien, I don't know what he's doing, but it's the third week in a row now where they've had a different number seven. It's just ridiculous. He does this every year. I prefer, I think the Knights will be better with Gamble at seven, and I think he should have been the option originally over Cogger and over Crossland, who's not a seven. So maybe they turn it around, but definitely on the Sharks this week.
Good stuff. And now to sort of wrap it up this week, we have the much talked about West Tigers versus the Eels for the Monday game. If you want to talk us through that.
That's it, mate. A lot to unpack here. I'm sure we're in for a bit of an interesting discussion with you being a Tigers fan. So, West Tigers with Lachlan Galvin sets his line up for the Western Suburbs earlier in the day at Lidcombe Oval. Jerome Luai and Adam Dewey make up the new halves combination. Brent Naden is back from a knee injury and slides into Dewey's centre spot. The Tigers have won their last three games against the Eels at CommBank. The Eels skipper Mitch Moses is back 2 weeks ahead of schedule and lines up for his first game of the season, having recovered from a stress fracture in his foot. Prop Jack Williams is also back early from an injury, whilst Kamal Tuilagi returns in the back row. Veterans Joe Offengawi, Ryan Madison, and Shaw Lane have all been demoted to New South Wales Cup. What are your thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, so obviously a few big ins this week with Brady Naden and Moses coming back. Um, Sort of to talk about the elephant in the room, it'd be Lockie Galvin dropping, and I am strong of the opinion of Benji is in the right completely. So obviously it's all come out this week that Galvin won't be at the Tigers in 2027, which is fine. It's all right. It's 18 months away, but I think it's just the way that he's gone about it, the way that his manager, I believe, has gone about it and really smeared his image to the public has turned his teammates, his own teammates against him. And on Monday night, both Appy and Lawai fronted Benji and they said they didn't want Galvin in the team. And yesterday, Benji told Galvin to speak to the players and let him know of the decision. And Galvin said, I'll do me, you do you, sort of thing. And the players just did not buy into that at all. It had to be ended after that. The players weren't buying into it. And we obviously saw a bunch of media posts yesterday from Lawai and Taruva having a few cracks at Galvin. So, look, I do think it's a bit. I just don't understand. Like Benji has done everything for Galvin. We've got an insane team now. You've got one of the best up and coming fullbacks in the game with Jerome Bully. You got a 4-time champion in Jerome Luai, and you got a champion and one of the origin and one of the craftiest hookers in the game in Luai, in Appy as well. To match in, we've brought in one of the best props in the game in Terrell May. I don't know what more as a young kid Lockie Galvin would want, especially as Benji a coach being a 5'8" as well. It just doesn't make sense to me. He played his debut there for the Tigers. Benji gave him a chance. A lot of people forget, he's only 19 years old. This guy's just a kid. And to get silly money thrown at him. I think it went up to $6 million for a 5-year contract, which is the biggest in Tigers history, especially for a junior. For him to not even look at the contract and walk away and say, no, it's because Benji is a bad coach and all these things that him saying, I think it's completely unfair on Benji and the club as a whole. So I'm really loving to see that all the players again behind Benji, the coach, and the club is sort of not standing for any of Moses's tactics. And look, if he wants to go, let him go, but only if we get something in return. I'd be more than happy to see Galvin play resis for the rest of the year now, unless there is a lot of injuries. But yeah, honestly, I couldn't care less about the bloke now. I think he's made his bed. He's gone about it the complete wrong way. His own teammates don't like him anymore. Like, I just don't see how it's going to be a positive future for him at the club. So I think what it would be a good idea would he we got to realize where he's going to go. I think it's pretty obvious he already has a deal lined up for 2027. There's no way the manager doesn't even look at the contract. Look at a $6 million contract for 5 years. There's no way he doesn't look at it if they don't already have a pretty good idea of where he's going to go. So yeah, that's my thoughts on the Galvin thing. Happy for him not to be in the team. We're all chips in on Finu now. Leitu's a bit of a gun. We've got all the Finu brothers now at the club. We took him from the Seagulls a couple of years ago. So yeah, sort of chips in on him now, and it's the next phase without Galvo.
Yeah, mate. Obviously, I understand the Tigers fans and all the upset and hurt that you've endured during this, and it's completely rational. In one hand, I'm trying to come at it with a bit of a neutral perspective. I can see both sides for sure. Definitely, as a fan, you would be a bit heartbroken with losing someone like Lockie Galvin after, your club has given him the opportunity and Benji has, given him the keys to the side and made him as an 18-year-old debut in the NRL. And, Luai came in and was looking forward to playing with Galvin. And the Tigers were building something and then he just wants to basically piss off for more money, it sounds like. But on the other hand, I just think that, you're a player and you're entitled to play and you don't have to sign a contract. Why should he have to say sign a contract for 18 months from now for 5 years? All he did was say no to signing the contract with the Tigers. And if he doesn't want to play for the club, then he doesn't want to play for the club and just let him go. I think, it doesn't have to be this whole song and dance. And I also think it's a bit rich from Luai and Taruva to be posting stories when they had just like they're just newly Tigers players this year, and they're talking about leaving for money. When isn't that just what they did as well? I just think it's a bit silly. At the end of the day, NRL and playing footy, NRL altogether is a business, and Lockie Galvin, if he doesn't want to play for the Tigers, he doesn't want to play for the Tigers. And in my opinion, he's done nothing but give 100% to the Tigers when he has played out there, which is more than a lot of Tigers players could say. And he's been awesome for them, and I think the priority should be winning games, not and part of winning games for this side is playing one of your best players, which is Lockie Garvin. Sending him in reserve grade, whatever else. I understand that your two captains come to you as a coach and they say that that's what they want and it would be better for the team. You probably, as Benji, you would listen, but Galvin, you can't tell me that Galvin's not the best six at the club or one of the best players at the club, and the priority should be winning and making the top eight. You're coming off the back of three wooden spoons in a row. You can't afford to miss finals footy, and Lachlan Galvin gives you the opportunity, well, greater chance of playing finals footy in everyone's opinion. Like, he's that player, and I think it would be nice if people could just move on. He's 19 years old. There's no need to carry on about this. People come and go and leave clubs. It's part of the business. But I understand the hurt because I went through similar as a Warriors fan with Walsh a couple of years ago when we gave him that opportunity to be a Warrior, and then I was upset when he went back to the club in the Broncos that didn't want him for more money and to be. He said it was to be closer to home, which but where's it? And then I felt like where's the loyalty to the club that gave you the opportunity and gave you the chance. It's a little bit different, but it's much of the same. So I understand both sides, and I just think, yeah, it's a really tough one. It's a tough one. I think I've said all my thoughts on it there, but if is there anything else more to add from you, or you want to move on to the other options in this game?
No, I think just to wrap it up, I just think it is the way he's gone about it, either his dad, his management, even himself, he's just gone about it the complete wrong way. And yeah, it's really smeared his image and he's going to get booed now. And this is what's going to be remembered as Lockie Galvin forever. It's just like when Daly Cherry Evans backflipped on the Titans all those years ago. Everyone still remembers that. Not everyone talks about it anymore. You can move forward, obviously. It's just this will stick with him because the way he's gone about it is just completely unacceptable and really unprofessional from the manager and father and himself even because
But
it's
like,
his
how's
actions
it?
that are
But
speaking.
it's not like he came to the Tigers saying I'm leaving. The Tigers came out to him and offered him a contract, and he just said no to it. You know, like
Yeah,
it's not.
because why? Because Benji can't coach is what he's saying. Who is he to judge? He's only
I
been
don't know if
coached
that's
by
like we've
Benji.
got no evidence to suggest that that's what he said. And if there's no way he would have said Benji can't coach. What he might have said is that he just doesn't feel like his game as a half is developing under Benji. And what's
But who
wrong?
is he to say that? Like, how would he know? Like he's played 2 years in the NRL. He's been coached for 2 years by Benji. He hasn't been coached by like Mal or Wayne or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't think he's going to get a better coach for him. Oh, like we will move on because we're chewing up so much time. But I just don't like. I think there's just more to the story as well. I just don't think it is as simple as sort of as it seems. But
Hmm.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see moving forward. I think he will play at least a couple of weeks in Rezzies and sort of depending how I do like the Naden in at center and Dewey into the halves though. So I think it could be a good thing for the Tigers. So especially if they win, yeah, I think it'll be a hard spot to come back to. I think he'll get the spot back once his teammates trust him again, but he's just broken all the trust. All the lads are off him. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that for
Yeah,
Galvin and
mate.
the
Well,
Tigers.
in
Um,
Supercoach news, though, with that, like it segues perfectly onto what I would like to touch on here with the Tigers is that Adam Dewey. I've held on to him this long. I'm so stoked from a Supercoach perspective to see him get a shot in the halves. We all know that he's a million times better in the halves for Supercoach, and I can't wait against the Eels Easter game on a Monday. I'm 100% playing him, and I think it's going to do wonders for him. I wouldn't be buying him if I was a non-owner, but definitely wouldn't be selling if I had him now, and I would 100% be playing him.
yeah, definitely agree on that. Unfortunately, I sold, of course, last week, but if I held or if I still had him, I definitely would be playing. I think the switch to the halves will be good for him, and I also think it's now Luai's team. He is,
Well, it's weird that Luai's moved to the six.
yeah, I think at 370K, he'd be cheaper even next week. He's someone I'm actually a bit interested in, so a bit of a watch there. No one really I want to touch on for the Eels. I've got no real interest. Obviously, Moses comes back, which should be good for Dill Brown and whatnot, but they've got the bye next week or the week after. So yeah, not much I'm interested in that game.
Yeah, definitely agree, mate. I've got nothing as far as the Eels go, really. There's Katonga keeps kicking on. Moses is back, and that's about all I have to say. If you had Yongi still, would you be looking to sell? I guess that's dependent on who your other fullbacks are. But I think with Moses back, you could definitely hold Yongi this week and then sell next week on the buy, I think would be the play.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have the Tiger. This game always turns out to be real close over the years.
Yeah.
It's been always settled by a field goal and a ridiculous scoreline. So I'm looking forward to this game. Monday footy is back. Obviously, the public holidays as well. How good. But yeah, I have the Tigers in this, hopefully by a decent little margin as well.
Yeah, I've got the Tigers as well in this one.
Beauty. That wraps up our TLT analysis for episode 11. moving on now quickly. We'll just do the top five most brought and sold
Yeah,
this
we're
week.
only a bit short on time, I think.
I think the whole Galvin thing
Yeah,
chew up a bit of time.
yeah, jeez.
But for this week, yeah, we'll just do the top five. So
Bit of hooked on Galvin, eh?
we've got Hiroti as the most purchased, as I mentioned last week and this week. Big fan, love the buy. Get him in, I say. You're the same.
Yep.
Egan, someone you've already got, someone I'm considering. If he starts, he's in for me. If he doesn't start, I don't think I'll be going, but you can't knock the buy at all. I think he's going to make a bunch of cash. He could even become a keeper sort of thing if he does start and sort of get that 80-minute roll. So, yeah, couldn't be bigger on the buy.
Yep. Goodbye, regardless, starting or bench.
Happy, third most purchased. I can't argue with that either. He obviously has the 18 break even kicked. I think him with the kicking tee really boosts his base so much more. As we saw on the weekend, I think he got 3 try assists and about 50 points in goals because he kicked every single goal straight over the black dot. So love the buy personally. I think if you didn't have Pappy, I would be trying to get him in because I do think he'll be a top three center wing.
Yeah, well, fullback. Yeah, it
A
does. It does
fullback,
depend.
sorry.
Yeah, it does depend, though, mate. Like as we touched on with that scenario, if you had Teddy and Gutho and then Ponga, are you selling Ponga to Pappy? Also, if you had Yongi, we just said that he's a hold. So
They've
I
been more than
wonder
happy, I reckon, for Yongi to
to
Pappy.
go. Yeah, but you're
Definitely lock that in for an upgrade. But for a side, well, it's not that's yeah, just the other one I'm not as sold. So yeah, you probably do make a good point. It is who you're selling. But if you're selling a cheapie or selling someone in your flex to Pappy, yeah, can't knock that.
yeah. I agree, mate. I think Pappy's a great buy and definite candidate for armband again this week.
Yeah, moving on to the fourth most purchased, David Fafita. We've spoken about him a lot this potty.
Yep,
You're of the opinion of if you're grabbing a second referrer, it should be Eli Katoa, then
yep,
David Fafita. I'm of the opinion both will be guns, both will be top two. It's just who do you want to grab this week? I still love it as a buy. Like, could not
yeah.
knock the buy at all. And I do get it with the low break even in a Sunday Titans game. I do see him going big. So he's someone I'm deciding between as well, Eli Katoa and David Fafita. But yeah, can't
Have you
knock
got
the buy.
any sort of which way you're leaning, or is it complete down the middle, 50-50, see how we feel sort of thing?
A lot of it depends on if Egan plays or not, because all my trade plans kind of depend on me either bringing Egan in or if I'm not bringing Egan in. If I am bringing Egan in, I have a bit less money to play with, so I would probably be more inclined to go with a David feeder. But if I don't bring Egan in, if I'm just boosting, say, a Goz to Ecat or a White to Egan, or a White, sorry, to Elikatoa, then I would probably be going with Elikatoa if I got more money in the bank, sort of thing.
Yeah,
But perfectly even playing field. I do just like David Fafita, especially with the price, but for security and for paying for what you want to get, Eli Qatar probably makes more sense there.
yeah.
Moving on to the fifth most purchased, Billy Smith. Now, this one I actually can't get behind.
I don't like it.
I I would just be going Hiroti this week and Billy Smith next week. There's absolutely no reason to rush on Billy Smith. We know he's injury prone. I know the chances of him getting injured at training or him not getting named or whatever it be next week is very low, but just the risk is there with him. I see no reason as to why he should be the fifth most purchased this week.
I completely agree. I don't understand that. So for us, we both have Shibasaki and Arthurs. In what world am I going Shibasaki and Arthurs down to Hiroti and Billy Smith and throwing up all this cash when you could just do it next week? And then again, if you are getting Billy Smith in, I assume that you're boosting one of these guys out. Why can't that trade just wait till next week? It must be trying to free up funds, which is the only real explanation for it, really. But I just think that you can do other moves, and Billy Smith, I don't. Well, I don't. Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like going a week early on him.
Agreed there. Moving on now to the most sold. We've got Shibasaki as the first most sold, and I can't disagree. I think he he has peaked in price. He's made a bunch of cash. He's made 290K, so he's been a great cheapie for us. And I think with the draw coming up, he obviously isn't a must sell this week, as we touched on earlier, but I think he is someone that you can easily move on and upgrade or either downgrade to generate that cash sort of thing. What are your thoughts on him?
Shibasaki, I think he's gone for me, but I definitely do think with this matchup this week that he could pump out some decent points. For me, with having both him and Arthur's, one has to go, and I just think I'm gonna hold Arthur's with the lower break even and the higher likelihood of scoring a try, and that's it, basically.
Yeah, moving on to the second most sold, we have Kalen Ponga. So he's being sold by the masses again this week. He does have a massive break even this week in 137, but would you be selling? I know I've said I wouldn't, and we've spoken to other potty. You probably wouldn't either, but would you sell him? Do you like to sell?
I don't like to sell. I think the only scenario I would is that scenario there where if you've got Teddy, who most people don't have because he's such a massive pod at the moment still, but if you had Teddy, Gutho, and then Ponga, and those are your three fullbacks, I think with Pappy playing the Dolphins, Ponga playing the Sharks, the break-even difference of about 120 points, that's the only instance I would trade Ponga to Pappenhausen, I think. Every other instance I wouldn't.
Yeah, third most sold Naf White. So here's another one. So his break even obviously is on I think it's his highest break even so far this year in 80 points, but he's someone that you can very easily just hold through the buy periods. We've obviously mentioned multiple times now that the Roosters have a really good buy period and is really crucial to get you through those buy rounds and the major buys. So to be the third most sold, I don't like it, but I'm assuming a lot of them are upgrading and getting a Dave Fafita or Eli Qatar, which I do understand. So I don't like it as the third most sold, but I do understand it.
Yeah, man. I came into this week initially not liking the idea of selling him just because of the buy coverage and how good he's been base wise, and he just had one down week. But he's definitely topped out or peaked. So I understand the sell just because of who else are you selling in your second row? Like he's peaked, and I want to move on to these guys that have this big upside, like Fafita and Katoa, and not someone like him who's a middle playing in my second row at the moment and just getting solid base. So I see both sides. If I could avoid selling, I would, but I can't. And I feel like a lot of people are in that sort of boat as well, where he is the best option to sell in the second row.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Jesse Arthur's coming in the fourth most sold. 48 break even. So again, similar to Shibasaki, I don't think it's an urgent sell, but here's someone that you want to be selling now sooner rather than later, especially with the Bronx draw coming up. If you were to sell one between Shiba or Arthur's, who would you sell?
Selling Shiva purely, as we touched on, just Arthur's more likely to score a try. He's playing on the left wing, which is where Coates torched the Warriors last week, and he's got a lower break even. So for those reasons, I would sell Shibasaki first.
Agree with you there, mate. And moving on to the fifth most sold player this week is it's Iongi. So I'm assuming most of them will be going him to Pap sort of thing, you would assume. There
Hmm.
wouldn't be many other fullbacks I'd be going for. Even Tedesco. Tedesco, you could make a play for, I suppose, but there's no urgency on that. Whereas I think if you don't have Pap, the time is now before he kind of goes off to up to 850K sort of thing.
Yeah, that's it.
And
And
then
every week that goes by without Pappenhausen is every week that Meany gets closer to returning and potentially taking the goal kicking back. I don't know though, because Pappenhausen's been such a sharpshooter with the tee. It's been ridiculous. Like, surely you can't kick him off goal kicking. He looks so good kicking the ball.
no, I definitely agree. I think he will keep it. He's kind of a career 80% kicker, whereas Nick Meaney is, I think it's 76%. So as we saw on the weekend, he's kicking it. He kicked every goal. He didn't miss one. He kicks it so smoothly and it just looks so good. So yeah, massive watch when Meaney does come back. But yeah, that wraps up the most purchased and most sold players this week. Moving on to our trades for the week, mate. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go?
I'll let you go first, mate.
I'll pull up my team. So at the moment, the plan is this. So we are selling Gosevsky to Egan. So this is of the assumption that Egan starts this week and will be a late inclusion into the starting 13 come game day. So I'm doing Gosevsky to Egan. I'm doing Arthurs to Karaz, who I'm big on. And to fund that all, I'm doing Shibasaki to Hiroti. So at the moment, those are my trades. I've obviously in these trade plans, I'm getting rid of all the Broncos, kind of shipping them on, as I've mentioned now, their draw coming to an end. More than happy to move them on. It does leave me still then with Tuipulotu, but and Naf White. Naf White, the hold, I do like, especially as someone to get through the buys, but Tui is someone I really want to hold and want to hold and bring back, but if we don't get any news soon, I think he'll be gone probably for Billy Smith next week. So at this point in time, those are my trades. I've got the VC Gatto C Pappenhausen. VC could very well be Karaz. I think I am pretty keen on doing an early VC in those sort of earlier games to go into a C Pappy, just back it in. But apart from that, those are my trades for this week. If Egan obviously isn't named, I won't do the Gosevsky to Egan. I will do Tuipulotu to no, I'll do Naf White to Dave Fifita or Eli Katoa. That's the option really. So it's Naf White to DFifi or ECAT versus Goz to Egan, which when it just sounded like that, obviously the White to DFifi one sounds better, but then I would be selling Tuipulotu and Shibasaki instead. So a few moving parts this week. What do you reckon? What would looking at this, what would you go for here?
Uh, Out of the options you gave,
Yeah, or what trades would you look at doing? I can
um,
even I'll even undo the team for you, mate. How about that?
yeah. Well, for me, mate, I think I would be looking at similar to follow what I did last week. Is I would be looking at upgrading Pakes personally to a hooker. I know you said you were keener on Connor Watson than Grant on the weekend and last week, but I think Grant really is the guy. So for me, it would either be looking at getting a Grant in because I'm not confident in playing Sandon against the Panthers, and that's part of the reason I didn't do it. Oh yeah, it's too much head noise for me to pick apart at the moment in the position that you're in. I feel like there's quite a few people that have peaked. Obviously you've got so much cash gen, that's what you've been chasing, but I think these guys are all starting to peak or Tui Pelote is injured now, so you've got to make some calls on which way you go. But Dylan Egan, if he starts, has to be prioritized. So it all sort of changes on that. And I actually think even if he's on the bench, you just get him in as well. Like, I would be looking at getting him in. I think it's a perfect trade, Kuchevsky to Egan. So I'm gonna roll with that for now. I'm gonna go Kuchevsky to Egan, lock it in, bench or not bench. I think that just seems like the play to me. Egan surely he's only going to get better from here, and I think if he doesn't cement the spot now, it's going to be at some point he's going to be starting, and it's going to really hurt, and he's going to make cash, plays the buy. Um, I reckon Gachepsi to Egan is the go, and I reckon just lock that in if he is on the buy or if he starts or doesn't start. I think I'd be bringing him in. Um, and it seems like a lot of people see that like agree as well. It's just so we'll lock in that, and then the other trades I'd be looking at would be one of your center wings has to go or both. So it would either be from Shibasaki, let's go Shibasaki down to Hiroti would be the next one. And then my last trade, it would either be this is where I'd leave it now. I'd go either Pakes to Grant or I would go Arthur slash Toy Pelotu to Karaz or White to Fafita Alikatoa. But I think those two trades there make the most sense. And then you just got to decide on that last gun move That's
on
where
who
I'd
it
be
is
leaning.
for.
Yeah, I would be thinking who to boost for now. But Shibasaki to Hiroti, 100%, and Kushevsky to Egan, 100%. You can't fault those trades at all. And I think Egan starting or on bench, you should just bring him in. I reckon, and I reckon you decide on the last gun that you bring in, which is a tough call.
Yeah,
It's a bloody tough call. Um, and it's basically the same predicament as a lot of people. You either go Pakes to Grant, you're going White to Fafita or Eli Katoa, or you're going Arthur slash Toy Pelotu to Karaz. And I basically would base that on who you're most keen on. And I think judging by the conversations, you're least keen on Grant. Like,
definitely.
and I think that does have the least upside, so we can cancel that out. So I think it comes down to
Karaz versus ECAT,
Karaz versus
DTP.
yeah, versus those three, which is exactly what I said at the start of the podcast. Those are my three targets. For me, I rank it Eli Katoa, then Eli Katoa, then Fafita, then Karaz. But I know a lot of people are different with that. Um, a lot of people would say Eli Katoa, then Karaz, then Fafita. I don't know. It's tough because yeah, I just don't know. That's what I would be looking at though. I'd lock in those two and
Yeah,
then get one of them. As much as we all want two of them, I just think that those trades just make sense. It gets rid of the deadwood that you want to get rid of for two guys that are very solid and will make a lot of money.
yeah, can't argue with those. I've been struggling to split Karaz, ECAT, even Grant. I do believe that I am way more keen on ECAT and Karaz. It's just would I rather sell an Arthurs and a Tui to Karaz and then I hold White, or would I rather sell White to a ECAT David Feeder and then hold Tui and Arthurs? So
That's
at
the thing, mate.
least Arthurs next week goes to Smith, so it's tricky.
That's the thing, mate. I think just with how you're set up, like Arthur's and Tui Pelotu, I think Arthur's 100% has to go. Like at some point, I'm holding him this week, but I think you one of them's got to go to Billy Smith regardless. So I don't mind the hold of White, but I really do like Eli Katoa. Like he's the guy that I'm keenest on. So, but I think White is a better hold than Tuipulotu and Arthur's. So, is it is White is holding White? It's basically White and Karaz or Eli Katoa slash the Fafita and Arthur's. And I think
White and Karaz.
it's White and Karaz, to be
Yeah,
honest.
serious.
If you break it down like that, probably is.
Mm. Decisions. We won't
Yeah.
bore the viewers with my trades, but yes, just know I got plenty of trades, plenty of ideas to do this week. It's just pulling on which one I'm gonna go first. But yeah, no, I agree with both the goals to Egan and the Shiba to
Alrighty.
Hiroti. It's just that third boost. Which position do I want to sort of upgrade?
Oh,
And
so you've come around to sort of that sort of way of thinking on that, you
well,
reckon?
I do think that Egan does start, so I think it's best to just plan that he starts, and then if he doesn't start and I get a bad gut feeling about him, suck it off. But at this point, yeah, I think I do just have to get Egan in, and not only for the cash gem, but also if he does get the start, I would more than happily play him over Nicholson this week. But
The
that
other thing,
covers.
I also quite like holding Tui Peloto as well for your side, just
Mm,
because if you find out more info next week, and then if not, Lucas is back soon, and it's just such an easy segue that way. So I think I would be selling Arthur's as well and going to Karaz. That way you hold White and then you can so easily just get Lucas in, and White is basically there for coverage.
yeah,
I don't
that
mind
could
that.
be the.
Like, but to me, I still rank it Eli Katoa as the best trade in, but it's just whether like Arthur's is definitely more of a trade out, like than White. Like White's going to do you much more good in your side than Arthur's, I think, long term.
Yeah, no, I agree. We'll be we'll be a tricky situation. Thank God we've got all these public holidays coming up to sit back and actually think about it and then
That's it,
enjoy the
mate.
footy as well. So, how about you, mate? What trades and skippers are you thinking about this week? Just
What?
quickly, I'll just say my VC is on Gutho or Kraz if I bring him in, and then my C will probably be on Pappy at this point. Sorry, mate, back to you.
Yeah, mate. So, similar to last week, I just am so set on my trades and haven't even thought about it. Like I know, well, not as much as you have, and you just have weeks like that, right? When you just it's a head noise thinking about your trades, and you have other weeks where it's just 1 second and it so makes so much sense you don't have to think about it. And I've got 2 weeks in a row now of exactly that. So for me, it's Shibasaki down to Hiroti, and then my second trade is White to Eli Katoa. If you look at my second row, it's just piss weak, and it's and it needs a bit more star power there. So that's what I'll be doing at this stage. Obviously, sad to see White go. I've really enjoyed him. My other option was Shibasaki and Arthur's to Hiroti and Karaz, but I just don't like the idea of playing Nicholson. Yeah, I just don't like that look of my second row when it's like that. As you can see there, it doesn't look very as strong as a lot of teams. So I want to get a gun second row in, and I'm massive on Eli Katoa. So those are the trades. I'll be playing Harry Grant at hooker, Payne Haas, and May and Tino. So be putting the reserve on May because he's the last game. My second row will then be Eli Katoa, Horsburgh, and Nicholson. If Egan starts, I will probably start him over Nicholson. Well, no, not probably. I will start him over Nicholson. I'll play Cleary and Hines, Jaden Campbell and Dewey. So there's three of my reserve tags gone with Dewey, Hines, and one of my front rowers with May. Um, Massive on the Dewey play, as I touched on, and then my centre wing will be Garrick, Marju, Jesse Arthurs, and Jenkins, and then fullbacks are fullbacks, so Pappenhausen, Teddy, and Walsh. I like the Walsh and Arthurs combo play, massive pod this week against the Warriors. I really like that, so I'm keen to. Obviously, it can just blow up in my face, and those guys can get sub 20 points very easily. But I'm hoping that they can return, and I'm looking at shipping off Walsh finally next week with the Broncos draw turning, as we touched on as well. But that'll be me, mates. Not too much subject to change. I think it's pretty locked in. The only thing that I could see myself doing is obviously playing Egan over Nicholson and then also playing Tamale potentially over an Arthurs or a Jenkins, but I don't think I will. It just depends. My captaincy, I'm set on VC on Pappenhausen. I don't want to captain him this week. I just got a got a thing for back to back tons. It just doesn't really happen too much. Where I think I've got the captain on Pappy last week, 136, and I would like to not go that way this week. It's just a bit of a superstitious thing, maybe. With that, I'd rather just play the VC. And my captain this week is actually just going to be a vice versa of last week. It's going to be Cleary at this stage. I'm backing in the Panthers for a bounce back. I've not set on that at all, though. My other options are Captain Tedesco, and my initial thought was actually to Captain Hines against the Knights because I just think they're dreadful. So that's where I'm at the moment, but nothing too set in stone. Pappenhausen has one of my armbands for sure. 90% it'll be my VC, and then my captain I'll have to decide on after that between guys I'm looking at Haas, May, Cleary, Hines, and Tedesco are the guys I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think first of all, I like your trades. I think they do just make sense and they sort of it just makes sense for your side. I do like it's just a risk because I still perceive the Panthers as a good a hard matchup and a good defensive team, but I do like the VC perhaps in a C Teddy play. I think that's probably if I had your side, that's probably be where I'm going. Just because Teddy is just so good. Like he just bangs it out, does nothing, and will put up a ton almost sort of thing. So that's what I'd be eyeing up, I reckon, if I were you.
Yeah, I like that shout, mate. Definitely heavily considered. I just don't have a good feeling about um yeah, I just don't I really do believe in, like, similar to last week where I said that the Roosters would turn up with Savala coming into the halves and then making all these changes. I think they spent a lot of energy in that game last week, and the Panthers will want to get one back on the Roosters this week, and I think the Panthers will win. And if they do, if I believe that, which I do very strongly, then who's going to be at the helm of those points? I think it's got to be Cleary, right? So that's the reasoning there. If I did believe that the Roosters would put on points and win this game, then of course I'd probably captain Teddy, but I just don't. I think I'm buying back into the Panthers narrative, and for that game for me, I would rather captain Cleary, but obviously on past form, etc., it doesn't look like Teddy looks the better captaincy option. But I just
Mm.
have a bit of a feeling that with more people buying Teddy this week, that he could flop a bit more. Like for me, he hasn't scored less than 83 points. I think he's got the highest 3 round average, second highest after Tarpany. And I bought him in 3 rounds ago, so he's been great. I just not really not feeling it as much, but who knows, that could change. He is still an option for me. It'd be a game time call on that one.
Yeah, and as we know in Supercoach, you always got to back the gut. So that is my advice to you, mate. Just back your gut in and ride with whoever you're backing in. That concludes another good episode, mate. Always a pleasure. Episode 11. We're getting through them now. It's good. Hopefully, Green Arrows again for you, mate. Hopefully, I can return back to the Green Arrows and we work up our way through the ranks, back hopefully to the top K. And then once in the top K, sort of chase then for that top 500, top 200 finish. But, mate, another good episode.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome, mate. It's dragged on a bit long with all the hooked on Galvin talk, but but yeah, keen to rip in and yeah, keen to see what you land on this week, and hopefully you can get a win in the head-to-head next week after getting getting touched up. No, I'm just kidding, mate.
That's why we love head to head, isn't it, fellas? But
Yeah,
also, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on the whole Galvin situation. So drop them in the comments. We'll get back to you next week's episode. But yeah, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next potty. Cheers,
that's it, mate.
guys.
And drop your comment as well on who your VC and C choices are. Would be intrigued to see who everyone is captaining this week. So yeah, thanks for another great episode, and thanks for that listen. See you next week, Fish, and yeah, here's some more green arrows.
That's it, mate. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.